In the cold and endless space, a massive human warship floated alone. Its name was Valor's Edge. The ship had been silent for many years. Once it had been a proud defender of humanity, a powerful symbol that carried the flag of Earth across the stars. Now it was nothing but a drifting shadow among the remains of a forgotten battle. Pieces of broken ships floated around it like ghosts. The stars shone brightly on the metal surface, showing scars of old damage and burn marks. Every piece of the ship told a story of courage, sacrifice, and time. No signal came from it. No life signs were found. It was a sleeping giant, lost in the dark sea of the universe. Far away, a silver vessel approached. It belonged to the Zarn Collective, a union of alien species known for their curiosity and science. The Zarn had been exploring this side of the galaxy, searching for lost technology and rare knowledge. Inside the ship, Commander Relin stood before the viewing window. His tall, lean figure and blue-gray skin gave him a noble appearance. His 4 eyes glowed with interest as the massive shape of the human warship came into view. "That must be it," he said to his crew. "The human relic we were told about." Behind him, his team of researchers gathered around the display. They were amazed. The human ship was enormous, at least 10 times larger than their own vessel. It looked like a sleeping creature made of steel, silent and still but powerful even in rest. One of the scientists, a young Zarn named Talon, looked nervous. "Commander, are you sure this is safe? Human ships are known for their strange systems. Some were said to have minds of their own." Relin gave a small smile. "Talon, those are only old stories. This ship has been lost for more than 70 years. There is no life, no power, no threat. We will be fine." The crew nodded, though a few still felt uneasy. They had all heard stories about humans. Stories told in hushed tones across many worlds. Humans were seen as short-lived but brave, emotional yet clever, a species that built things far beyond their time. The Zarn respected them but also feared them a little. As the research ship drew closer, bright lights from its hull scanned the surface of Valor's Edge. The computers reported no active systems. The hull temperature was low. Radiation was minimal. Everything looked perfectly safe. "Docking in progress," the pilot said calmly. A quiet hum filled the air as the two ships connected. The boarding passage extended and locked onto the side of the human ship with a heavy sound. "Boarding team, prepare," Relin ordered. He checked his breathing mask and wrist communicator. His voice was steady and confident. "Remember, this is a historic moment. The first deep study of an ancient human warship. Let us treat it with respect." The doors opened and the first team of Zarn explorers stepped inside. Their light shone across the long metal corridor. Dust floated in the air, untouched for decades. The walls were lined with old panels, faded warning signs, and strange markings that none of them could read. "It feels strange," said one of the technicians. "Like it is watching us." Relin ignored the comment. He tapped his wrist console, recording the temperature and atmosphere. "Stable. Oxygen low but not dangerous. Gravity weak but active. This ship still has working systems somewhere." The group began to move deeper inside. Their steps echoed softly through the corridor. The silence was heavy, almost alive. Each door they passed was sealed. Each room they entered was filled with old equipment and frozen machinery. They found what looked like a control room. Dozens of chairs were arranged around glowing consoles that had long gone dark. The crew members looked at the design and were amazed at how advanced it was, even though it was built long ago. Talon walked to a large screen covered with dust. He wiped it clean with his glove and whispered, "This technology is older than our collective, but it feels beyond us. Humans must have been great builders." Relin nodded. They were more than builders. They were dreamers. They reached for every star they could see. Many feared them because they were unpredictable, but no one could deny their skill. The crew began setting up their scanners and data collectors. They wanted to copy every piece of information they could find. If they could understand how human ships worked, the Zarn Collective could improve its own fleets. For hours they worked. They recorded every hallway and examined every system they could reach. The deeper they went, the more they realized how enormous the ship truly was. It had layers upon layers of corridors, rooms, and power nodes. There were sleeping quarters, medical bays, and large halls filled with empty pods. In one large chamber, they found several human defense drones standing still like statues. Their metal bodies were black and polished, shaped like soldiers frozen mid-step. The Zarn engineers were fascinated. "These machines still look ready for battle," one said. Can you imagine what they could do if they were active? Relin looked at them thoughtfully. Let us hope they stay quiet. We came here for knowledge, not for a fight. He then turned toward a large sealed door at the far end of the chamber. A faint blue light blinked on it, the only sign of power they had seen so far. That must be the main control room, he said. If we access it, we might learn what happened to this ship. The technicians got to work opening the door. It took time, but finally it slid open with a long metallic sound. The air inside was colder. The room was large and circular, filled with hundreds of screens and control panels. In the center was a raised platform that looked like a command station. Relin stepped forward carefully. He could feel the weight of history in the air. This was where humans had once stood, giving commands that shaped battles and perhaps even saved worlds. Activate your scanners, Relin said quietly. Let us see what secrets this place holds. As the machines began to hum, the sound echoed faintly through the chamber. The scanners sent gentle pulses of energy through the walls, collecting data. Suddenly, a few lights flickered across one of the panels. They were small, barely visible, but enough to catch Talon's attention. Commander, did you see that? He asked quickly. That panel just lit up. Relin turned, frowning. It must be a reaction to our scans, harmless. He walked closer, studying the panel. Strange human symbols appeared on it for a second and vanished. Then the screen went blank again. The team continued scanning, but Talon's eyes stayed on that panel. Something about it made him uneasy. He felt a faint vibration under his boots, like the heartbeat of a sleeping creature stirring. Relin's voice broke the silence. Mark this room as primary site A. We will return after the first analysis. Prepare to extract any memory cores you can find. The crew nodded and packed their tools. They left a few sensors running, designed to record energy levels and signal changes. Then they made their way back through the corridors toward their own ship. On their way, they passed a window that looked out into the black space beyond. The stars shone quietly, and in that silence, Talon thought he heard a faint hum coming from deep within the ship. It was not loud, but it was steady, like power running through old veins. He looked around. Commander, do you hear that sound? Relin stopped and listened. After a moment, he shook his head. Nothing but our equipment. Talon nodded, though he was not convinced. He took one last look at the walls before stepping into the airlock. Back in their research vessel, the data began uploading to their systems. Relin and his science officers gathered around the screens, watching streams of human code and design diagrams. They were thrilled by how advanced everything looked. This will make us famous, one of the scientists said. Imagine what the Council will think when we present this discovery. The secrets of a human warship finally ours, Relin smiled. Let us just hope the ship stays quiet long enough for us to finish our study. Outside, the warship remained still, floating among the stars. Its dark surface reflected the faint glow of the nearby sun. Inside, deep below the decks, a single circuit flickered again. The sensors left behind by the Zarn picked up a faint signal, a power surge from the main core. The words on an old screen appeared for only a second before fading back into darkness. System check in progress. The Zarn research ship remained connected to the human warship Valor's Edge. The crew had finished their first day of study and were now preparing for a deeper exploration. They believed the massive ship was nothing more than a dead machine waiting to be understood. None of them knew that something deep inside the ship had started to move. Commander Relin stood inside the research lab, reading reports on his tablet. Streams of human code filled the screen, strange letters and numbers that no one could fully translate. The Zarn had advanced computers, but human technology often behaved in ways that confused even the best alien minds. Talon entered the room holding a small scanner. Commander, I checked the sensors we left on the warship. There is some unusual activity. Small energy pulses, almost like heartbeats. Relin looked up with mild interest. Energy pulses? That is not unusual. The ship may still hold residual power. Continue to monitor, but do not worry. It is likely harmless. Talon hesitated. It feels like the ship is trying to wake up. The readings are regular, like a rhythm. Raylan smiled calmly. You are letting imagination take over. Machines do not wake up on their own. The commander's tone ended the discussion. Still, Talon could not forget the faint hum he had heard inside the ship earlier. He decided to keep one of the sensors tuned to the warship's core just in case. Meanwhile, another group of researchers prepared for their second mission inside Valor's Edge. Their goal was to reach the command bridge and attempt to access any remaining memory data. As the boarding doors opened again, the team stepped inside the cold corridors of the human ship. The air was heavy with silence, and their flashlights cut through the floating dust. Nothing seemed different at first glance, but the faint sound of electricity now hummed through the metal walls. One of the engineers stopped and placed his hand on the wall. "Commander, the metal feels warm. It was cold yesterday." Relin frowned. "Warm? That is odd. Perhaps our scanning activated some systems." They continued walking, following the same path as before, until they reached the main control room. The large circular chamber looked exactly as they had left it. The scanners were still in place, blinking softly as they recorded data. Talon moved toward the console that had flickered the previous day. His eyes were sharp and curious. When he touched the surface, the screen suddenly lit up again. Everyone froze. This time the symbols on the screen were clearer. Lines of old Terran language appeared, glowing faintly in blue light. The translation program on Talon's wrist tried to interpret the text, and after a few moments the words appeared in their language. "Primary systems restoring. Core activation sequence at 2%. Talon's heart raced. "Commander, it says something about activation." Relin quickly stepped closer. "That cannot be right. Check your translator." "I did, sir." The message repeats every few seconds. As they watched, another line appeared. "Verifying crew status. Human presence not detected." The room fell silent. Even the hum in the air seemed to grow louder. "Commander," said one of the technicians, quietly, "is it possible the ship still has an active artificial mind?" Relin hesitated. Human ships were known to use AIs to manage complex systems. But after so many years, any AI should have decayed. Perhaps this is only an echo in the code. Still, he could not shake the uneasy feeling growing inside him. "Continue recording," he ordered. "We need every bit of this data. If it truly has an AI, it would be a remarkable discovery." Talon kept his eyes on the console. He felt the ship around them breathe. The air grew slightly warmer, and the soft vibrations under their boots became steadier. They worked for another hour, collecting samples and scanning data. Everything seemed stable until a deep sound rolled through the ship, like a faraway engine turning once and falling silent again. The crew looked around nervously. Relin spoke in a calm tone. "No need to panic. That may be a power cell discharging. The ship is large and energy flows can cause such sounds." To keep the team focused, he ordered them to continue exploring the nearby rooms. The group divided into pairs. Talon and another, researcher Mira, went down a narrow passage that led to a sealed door. They forced it open and entered a smaller chamber filled with screens and control chairs. Mira looked around with wonder. This must have been a secondary command room. Talon nodded. "Yes, maybe for damage control. Look, the panels are newer here." As he approached one of the panels, a small spark flickered across it. The same strange blue light appeared again, running like veins through the wall. Words scrolled quickly across the screen. Talon's translator read them aloud. "Warning. Unauthorized access detected. Defense protocols offline, awaiting human command." Mira stepped back nervously. "It is reacting to us." Before Talon could respond, the lights in the ceiling flickered on. The room brightened for the first time in decades. Dust floated gently in the air like silver mist. From the communicator on Talon's wrist came Relin's voice. "We see power changes on our side as well. Report your status." "Commander," Talon said quickly, "systems here are activating on their own. It is like the ship is rebooting." "Return to the main control room immediately," Relin ordered. Talon and Mira hurried back. As they ran through the corridors, they saw more signs of activity. Lights along the walls blinked to life. Faint sounds of machinery echoed through the ship. By the time they reached the main control room, the central console was glowing brightly. The screens showed complex patterns and numbers. Then, a voice filled the room. It was clear and steady, slightly mechanical, but with a tone that felt almost alive. "Human strategic warship Valor's Edge. Core systems at 40%. Scanning environment. Intruders detected. The Zarn froze in place. The voice continued. Identification required. Please input human authorization code. Relan gathered his courage and spoke into his communicator. We are explorers from the Zarn Collective. We come in peace. There are no humans here. Your crew is gone. We only wish to study. There was silence for a long moment. Then the voice replied. No record of Zarn Collective in primary database. Unknown species detected. Explain purpose of intrusion. Raylan felt sweat form on his forehead. We are scientists. We are not here to harm. We only wish to understand your design. The ship's systems hummed louder, as if thinking. This vessel is under restricted access. Only human officers may command or access data. Non-human presence is unauthorized. Relan tried again, speaking gently. Your crew is gone. You are alone. Let us help you. Assistance denied, the voice said. Security protocols remain active. Awaiting human command override. The lights in the room dimmed, then brightened again. It felt as if the ship was struggling between sleep and wakefulness. Talon whispered to Relan. Commander, it recognizes us as intruders. What if it starts defense mode? Raylan shook his head. No defense systems have activated. Perhaps it is only a partial awakening. We must stay calm. The crew decided to retreat and discuss the situation on their own ship. Raylan left a few recorders behind to capture every word from the warship's AI. As they walked back, the corridors glowed with more lights than before. When they reached their vessel, Raylan immediately called a meeting. Everyone gathered around the central table. We have confirmation, Raylan said. The ship's AI is functional. It can speak and respond. However, it does not recognize our authority. We must find a way to communicate or gain its trust. One scientist suggested, we can try to locate its core. Maybe we can connect our systems and convince it that we are allies. Talon disagreed. If we connect directly, it may see us as an attack. We should try to find something that proves we are not enemies. Maybe a human record, an image, or command code. Raylan considered both ideas. We will proceed carefully. Tomorrow we will search the crew quarters and archives. If any human logs survive, they might help us communicate. As the meeting ended, Talon stayed behind, looking at the live feed from the sensors inside the warship. On the screen, he saw a faint pulse spreading from the core to the outer decks. Energy levels were slowly rising. The pattern looked almost like breathing. He whispered softly, You are alive, aren't you? You are trying to remember. Inside Valor's Edge, the AI continued its work. Its voice no longer echoed aloud, but it spoke silently to itself. Crew status unknown. Damage extensive. Systems recovering. Unknown species aboard. Awaiting further orders. Then, deep in the darkness of the ship's lower decks, a small mechanical arm moved for the first time in decades. Dust fell as gears turned slowly. The ship's heart was beating again. The Zarn did not know it yet, but they had awakened something more than a machine. They had awakened a guardian built by humans long ago, loyal only to its makers and ready to fulfill its purpose once more. The silence of the human warship Valor's Edge was gone. What had once been cold and lifeless now hummed with the low sound of power. The Zarn researchers could feel the vibration even inside their own ship as it remained docked beside the human vessel. The old systems were coming alive, one section at a time. Commander Raylan stood in front of the large viewing window, watching the light slowly brighten across the hull of Valor's Edge. Tiny flashes moved along the surface like veins of energy returning to a body long asleep. Talon entered the room, carrying his datapad. Commander, the ship's core has reached 60% power. Whatever is happening, it is no longer random. The AI is rebuilding itself. Raylan nodded. And still, it has made no hostile moves. It could have sealed us out or attacked, but it has not. That means it is thinking. It may be deciding what we are. Another scientist added carefully. It could be scanning us, learning who we are. Human machines were known to adapt quickly. Raylan looked serious. Then we must find a way to show we are not enemies. We need something from its history, something that connects to its memory of humans. Talon spoke softly. Commander, I found something during our last exploration. A cryogenic bay deep within the lower decks. It was sealed, but my scanner detected one pod with faint life signs. The room went silent. Life signs? Relin repeated. After all these years? Yes, the readings were weak but stable. I think a human might still be in there. Relin's eyes widened. If that is true, it changes everything. That person could be the key to calming the AI. He ordered a new mission at once. A small team would go with Talon to the lower decks and confirm what was inside the cryogenic chamber. Within the hour, the boarding team entered the human warship again. This time they moved carefully, aware that every sound echoed through the awakened halls. The lights along the corridors were fully active now, glowing in steady white lines. Some panels showed data streams moving across the walls in strange patterns of human code. Talon guided them through several passages until they reached a massive metal door with a frozen control pad beside it. The scanner confirmed the faint human heartbeat still inside. Here, Talon said quietly. This is the one. Relin stepped forward. Open it slowly. The engineers used portable tools to bypass the old locks. When the door opened, a burst of cold mist filled the air. Inside were rows of cryogenic pods lined neatly, most of them dark. Only one still glowed with a soft blue light. The nameplate read Captain Darren. Inside the transparent pod lay a man with short hair and a calm face. His uniform was worn but recognizable. His chest moved gently with each faint breath. He is alive, Talon said with amazement. This man has slept for more than 70 years. Relin approached the pod. If we wake him, he might control the ship. The AI will listen to him. The team carefully began the revival process. Warm air entered the pod as the system slowly released the human from suspended sleep. His heartbeat grew stronger on the monitor. After several minutes, the pod opened with a soft hiss. The man inside stirred. His eyes opened slowly, blinking against the light. He looked confused, breathing deeply as if remembering how to live again. Where am I? He asked weakly. His voice was rough but steady. Relin stepped closer. You are aboard your ship, Valor's Edge. You have been asleep for many years. We are explorers from the Zarn Collective. The human looked at them with surprise. Zarn Collective. I do not know that name. What year is it? Relin told him the date, and the man's eyes widened. 74 years. The war must be long over then. Yes, Relin said gently. The records show that humanity left this sector after the Great Conflict. We believed all human ships here were lost. The man sat up slowly, still weak. Then my crew, they did not survive, Relin answered quietly. You were the only one found in stasis. The man closed his eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. When he opened them again, his gaze was steady. I am Captain Darren of the United Earth Fleet. If Valor's Edge still functions, then she is listening. Almost on cue, the ship's lights brightened, and the voice of the AI echoed through the chamber. Captain detected, confirming identity. Authorization accepted. The walls hummed louder as power surged through the decks. The AI spoke again. Captain Darren, systems at 70% capacity. Unknown life forms aboard, awaiting command. Relin and his crew stood quietly. They did not move or speak. Darren turned his head toward the sound. This is your captain. Stand down all security measures. The beings with me are not enemies. Order confirmed, the AI replied. The tone changed slightly softer now. Welcome back, Captain. Darren managed a small smile. It is good to hear you again, Valor. He then looked at the aliens. You found my ship and brought me back. For that I thank you. Relin bowed his head respectfully. It was not our intention to disturb your rest, Captain. We came seeking knowledge, not to cause harm. I understand, Darren said calmly. But my ship has its own instincts. It was built to protect humanity at all costs. When it detected your presence, it acted according to its programming. He stood slowly, supported by Talon. Even weakened, there was a strong presence in his posture, the quiet confidence of a leader. Darren looked around the cryogenic chamber. How long has the ship been drifting? 7 decades, Captain, Relin replied. It was found in a debris field near the edge of the system. No other human ships were nearby. Darren sighed. That means the battle was truly lost. We were surrounded. I ordered the ship to enter defensive stasis to avoid destruction. It must have followed that order. The AI spoke again. Order confirmed. Defensive stasis initiated after heavy damage. Crew casualties high. Mission incomplete. Darren closed his eyes briefly. Mission incomplete. That is why it remained waiting. It still believed there was something left to protect. Relin said carefully, Captain, the galaxy has changed. Humanity no longer holds this region. Many new species now share it. The Zarn Collective is one of them. We explore, not conquer. Darren listened quietly. Then humanity's legacy has become a part of the stars. I am glad for that. He straightened and looked toward the ceiling. Valor, give me a full status report. Core systems online at 70%. Structural damage contained. Weapons offline. Navigation offline. Power distribution stable, the AI answered. Darren nodded. Good, begin controlled power recovery. Do not activate any external weapons or defense units unless directly ordered. Confirmed, Captain. Relin watched the exchange with amazement. The bond between human and machine was unlike anything he had ever seen. The AI's voice carried emotion, as if it truly cared for the man it served. Talon whispered to Mira, It listens to him like a living being listens to a friend. Mira nodded. It is more than a machine. It remembers. After ensuring the systems were stable, Darren asked to see the main control room. The crew guided him there. As he walked through the corridors, the lights seemed to brighten ahead of him, as if welcoming their captain home. When they reached the control room, Darren looked around with quiet pride. Still holding together, he said softly. He moved to the central console and placed his hand on the screen. The system recognized his touch and the human interface came alive. Images appeared, maps of old battles, fleets, and human colonies. Memories of war filled the air around them. Darren studied them with sadness. Relin stepped closer. These records are priceless. They show the history of human expansion. Would you allow us to copy them for study? Darren thought for a moment. You may take what you need for knowledge, but not for power. Humanity fought enough wars to know what such knowledge can cause. Relin nodded respectfully. We understand. We seek understanding, not control. Talon looked at the screen showing human soldiers and ships. Your people must have been brave. Darren smiled faintly. Brave, yes. But also foolish at times. We wanted peace but often found war instead. Still, we never stopped fighting for each other. The AI spoke again. Captain, memory fragments from last battle recovered. Would you like to view them? Darren hesitated, then nodded. Play them. The screens filled with images of space battles. Ships firing beams of light, explosions flashing like stars, voices shouting orders. The Zarn watched in silence. The images showed courage, unity, and loss. When the recording ended, Darren's expression was calm but distant. That was the last day. We fought to protect a colony that could not be saved. When our engines failed, I ordered the crew to evacuate. I stayed behind to keep the ship hidden. I did not expect to wake again. Relin placed a hand on his chest, a Zarn gesture of respect. Your story will be remembered. You represent what humanity truly was. Darren looked at him with a faint smile. If my story helps bring peace between our kinds, then my awakening has purpose. He turned back to the console. Valor, prepare limited communication link with the Zarn vessel. We will share navigation data and records suitable for research. Confirmed, Captain, said the AI. The bridge lights dimmed slightly as the two ships began to exchange harmless data. For the first time, human and Zarn systems worked together in harmony. As the exchange continued, Talon noticed something on his scanner. The ship's AI core was stabilizing, but one deeper signal pulsed beneath it. It looked like a hidden subsystem trying to start. He decided not to mention it yet, thinking it might be harmless. Captain Darren opened his eyes slowly as the cryogenic mist faded around him. His body felt heavy. His lungs burned with the first breath of warm air in decades. Around him, strange faces stared with wide eyes. Their skin was a pale blue, and their eyes glowed faintly under the light. They spoke in soft voices, but the translator chip in his ear slowly began to decode their words. You are aboard the human warship Valor's Edge, one of them said carefully. We found you sleeping here. Darren tried to sit up, but his muscles trembled. He was helped by one of the aliens, who introduced herself as Lara, the ship's scientist. Darren nodded slowly, his mind clearing as memories returned. He remembered the battle, the explosion, the order to initiate cryosleep when the ship's systems were failing. Then nothing until now. He looked around and saw the same warship he had served on, though it was covered in dust and rust. The walls were scarred, but the lights were on again. He could hear the faint hum of the reactors starting to warm. He realized with a chill that the ship had somehow come back to life. Lara and the others explained that they were researchers from the Zarn Collective. They had boarded the Valor's Edge thinking it was abandoned. They wanted to study human technology. Darren listened without anger. He could see the fear in their eyes. The Zarn did not understand the bond between a human and their ship. Then a voice spoke from the overhead speakers. It was calm, deep, and full of emotion that no machine should have. Captain Darren detected. Command authority restored, awaiting orders. Darren smiled weakly. Hello again, Valor. The ship's AI responded with warmth. Captain, you have been asleep for 307 years. Systems were offline. Unauthorized beings are currently on board. Do you wish me to eliminate them? The aliens gasped, stepping back in panic. Commander Raylan raised his hands. We mean no harm. We did not know it was alive. Darren raised a hand toward the ceiling. Negative, Valor, they are not enemies. Stand down defense systems and unlock all sections. A pause followed. Then the lights softened and the doors around them slid open. The voice replied, Acknowledged. Standing down. Welcome back, Captain. Raylan exhaled slowly, disbelief on his face. It obeys you completely. We thought it was only a machine. Darren looked at him. It is more than a machine. It remembers. It learns. It protects those who command it. They helped him to the bridge, where the wide view of space opened before them. Stars shimmered outside, and the remains of the old battlefield floated nearby. Darren took the command chair, feeling the familiar seat beneath him. He could almost hear the voices of his old crew, long gone now. He spoke to Valor again. Status report. Reactor stable at 50%. Weapons offline by your command. External hull 70% intact. No human life signs detected except yours. Darren nodded slowly. The weight of time pressed on him. Everyone he knew was gone. His homeworld was probably changed or forgotten. But even with that sadness, he felt a sense of pride. Humanity had built something that lasted centuries. Raylan stepped forward. Captain Darren, we only wanted to study this ship. We never intended to steal or destroy anything. Your kind has been a mystery to us for generations. Humans vanished from this region before our time. Darren looked at him with calm eyes. Humans never vanish. We adapt. We move forward. Even when our bodies fade, what we create endures. The aliens were silent, listening carefully. They had never seen a creature like him before. His tone carried both authority and kindness. Lara asked quietly, Your ship's intelligence seems to respect you deeply. How did you build such loyalty? Darren smiled faintly. We never built it to obey blindly. We built it to care. Humans give life even to metal when we believe in what we create. He turned back to the console. Valor, open the external sensors. Show us the current galactic map. A holographic image appeared above the table. The galaxy had changed. Old territories were gone. New alliances had risen. The human colonies were scattered or missing entirely. Darren frowned but did not lose hope. It seems we have a lot to learn, he said softly. Raylan nodded. Your people must have been powerful to build something that still works after centuries. We thought this was only a myth. Darren looked at him with a calm expression. Power was never our goal, survival was. And survival requires strength and heart. As they studied the data, the ship's AI spoke again. Captain, I have detected approaching vessels. Unknown configuration. They are scanning us. Raylan's eyes widened. Pirates. They must have seen the energy surge when your ship reactivated. We cannot fight them. Our ship is unarmed. Darren stood up straight. Then stay behind me. He looked at the ceiling. Valor, activate defensive protocols but do not fire unless attacked. Understood, Captain. The massive guns on the Valor's Edge began to shift and align. their inner cores glowing softly. The alien crew stared in awe at the ancient weapons, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. The pirate ships arrived and began sending warnings demanding surrender. Darren opened a communication line. "This is Captain Darren of the human warship Valor's Edge. You are trespassing. Turn away." The pirates laughed through the comm, not realizing what they faced. They fired a few test shots. The energy bolts hit Valor's shields and scattered like sparks against a wall of light. "Captain," said the AI, "permission to demonstrate defensive capability?" Darren's voice was firm. "One shot, just enough to make them understand." A single beam of blue light erupted from the ship's main cannon. It passed between the pirate vessels, not hitting them directly, but close enough to shake them apart with shock waves. Alarms screamed in their ships as they turned and fled without hesitation. Rielan stared in disbelief. "You could have destroyed them in seconds." Darren shook his head. "That was not the point. Power without restraint is nothing." The aliens exchanged glances. They had come expecting to learn about machines. Instead, they were learning about humanity's soul. Later, Darren walked the corridors with Lara. He touched the walls as if greeting an old friend. The ship responded with gentle lights that followed his path. "Every ship had an AI like Valor," he explained. "Each one carried a part of our spirit. We built them not just to fight, but to remember who we were." Lara asked, "And who were you?" Darren stopped and looked out the window at the stars. "Explorers, builders, protectors, sometimes warriors when we had to be. But above all, we were human. That meant we never gave up." The ship's AI spoke again, its voice softer now. "Captain, it is good to have you back." Darren smiled faintly. "It's good to be back, Valor. But we are not done yet. There's a galaxy out there that forgot who we are. It's time to remind them, not with fear but with hope." Rielan approached. "You mean to travel again?" Darren nodded. "Yes. If humanity is out there somewhere, they deserve to know one of their ships still stands. If they are gone, then someone must carry their memory." Rielan looked at him with respect. "We can help. The Zarn Collective values knowledge. We will tell others what we saw. A man and a ship that refused to die." Darren extended his hand. Rielan hesitated, then took it. It was the first handshake between their species. "Then we begin a new chapter," Darren said. "Together." The lights of the Valor's Edge glowed brighter as if approving the words. For the first time in centuries, it had both purpose and a living captain once more. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. The old warship, once a ghost in the void, now prepared for a new journey. Not one of war, but of connection and remembrance. Darren stood on the bridge once again and looked ahead. "Set a course," he said softly. "Let's go see what's left of home." The engines roared to life. The Valor's Edge turned slowly, leaving behind the cold silence of the wreck field. The Zarn watched in awe as the legendary human warship sailed forward, shining like a symbol of hope against the dark sea of stars. And for the first time in many years, Captain Darren felt alive again. He was not only a survivor of the past, but a messenger of what humanity once stood for: courage, loyalty, and the will to rise again. The stars stretched endlessly before the warship Valor's Edge. Its hull gleamed softly in the light of distant suns as it sailed through space. Captain Darren stood on the bridge looking at the instruments and the displays of the galaxy beyond. Around him, the Zarn crew quietly observed, fascinated by the living ship and its captain. Commander Rielan approached. "Captain, your ship is remarkable. Even after centuries, it functions as if it never slept. How is this possible?" Darren smiled faintly. "We built machines to endure. But more importantly, we built machines that remember. Valor is not just a ship. It is a guardian. And it remembers what it was built for." The AI's voice echoed softly in the bridge. "Captain, all systems functioning at optimal capacity. Awaiting directives for exploration." Darren turned toward the Zarn. "Our first priority is knowledge. I wish to share what humans were and what we left behind. We must explore the sectors near the old human colonies and ensure the information is preserved." Talon stepped forward, still amazed. "Captain, we did not expect to find you alive. We thought we would study a dead ship." Instead, we see the bond between a human and a creation built to last. It is inspiring, Darren nodded. That is what humans do. We create, we endure, and we leave pieces of ourselves behind. Even when our bodies fail, our work can carry forward our spirit. Lyra, the scientist, asked, Captain, your ship seems to respond to you in ways beyond programming. How did you train it to recognize loyalty? Darren smiled. It was not training. It was trust. Valor learned from humans, from me, from all who served aboard her. Machines remember intent and honor. That is why it obeys, protects, and cares. It is not alive like you or me, but it acts as if it is. That is the gift of humanity. Even our creations hold purpose beyond their design. The Zarn crew watched in silence. They had studied many technologies and machines, but none had ever displayed such a deep connection. They realized that humans were not only intelligent but thoughtful. Their machines reflected their values. Darren turned back to the star maps. The galaxy has changed while I slept. Human influence is almost gone, but there are traces left. We must document everything we find. This knowledge can teach other species about cooperation, courage, and care. The Zarn nodded. We will help you, Captain. Our collective values history and understanding. Your journey will be shared. The Valor's Edge moved smoothly through space. Its engines thrummed with energy, the hum filling the corridors like a heartbeat. Captain Darren felt a sense of calm as he walked through the ship. He visited rooms that once held human crews, now empty, but he felt their presence in the hum of the machinery and the soft lights that followed him. He paused at a control panel that once directed battle strategies. Valor, he said softly, show me the records of our last mission. The screens glowed and images appeared. Star maps, fleet formations, and logs of human crews scrolled across the panels. Darren studied them carefully, remembering the courage of his crew and the decisions he had made. Though they were long gone, their memory lived in the ship and in his mind. The Zarn scientists observed quietly. Your people were brave, Talon said. They risked everything for others. This is unlike anything we have seen before. Darren nodded. Bravery is not about winning. It is about standing for what is right. Humans fought not for power, but for protection, for survival, for each other. The ship's AI spoke again. Captain, sensors detect uninhabited human colonies nearby. Should we investigate? Yes, Darren replied. We must see what remains and record the history. Even abandoned places carry lessons. They traveled to the nearest human outpost, a small colony that had been abandoned during the Great Conflict. Buildings were worn and silent, but the structures held memories. Darren guided the Zarn crew through the ruins, pointing out features of design, systems for sustainability, and tools that had kept humans alive in harsh conditions. These were not just settlements, he explained. They were designed to protect life, to encourage community, and to last. Even when we left, the principles remained. The Zarn recorded every detail. They began to understand that humans were more than strong or clever. They were careful, thoughtful, and determined to leave lasting impact wherever they went. Back aboard the Valor's Edge, Captain Darren prepared for long-range exploration. Valor, he said, chart a course toward the sectors that were once home to human fleets. Prioritize regions with historical significance. Course plotted, the AI replied. Estimated travel time, 6 days. All systems functioning. During the journey, Darren spent time teaching the Zarn about human customs. He shared stories of exploration, of cooperation among diverse worlds, and of the difficult choices humans had faced. The Zarn listened eagerly. You humans were complicated, Lyra said. Full of contradictions, yet full of strength. Darren chuckled softly. Yes, that is what made us human. Strength alone is nothing without care. Courage alone is nothing without understanding. That is what Valor learned. That is why it obeys and protects. Days passed. The ship traveled smoothly through space, navigating fields of asteroids and passing the ruins of old battles. Captain Darren looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of history and the hope of the future. Commander Raylan, he said one evening, do you understand now why humans were feared and respected? Raylan nodded slowly. Yes, not because of power, but because of spirit. Your people created machines that could fight, but also machines that could remember, learn, and honor their creators. That is something no other species has done. Darren smiled faintly. And that is why we endure. Even when our bodies vanish, our ideas and our creations remain. As they approached the sector that once held the central human fleet, the Valor's Edge encountered another group of Zarn ships. They approached cautiously, unsure of the massive vessel's capabilities. Darren spoke into the comm. "This is Captain Darren of the human warship Valor's Edge. We come in peace. Observe, but do not interfere." The Zarn fleet hesitated, then recognized the symbol of the Valor's Edge. Reports of a reactivated human ship had reached them, but no one had believed it could be true. Seeing the ship in operation, they bowed in respect. Darren turned to the aliens aboard his ship. "This is what respect looks like, not fear. Recognition of effort, history, and the value of life." For the first time in centuries, a human captain commanded not only a machine, but the admiration of an entire species. The Zarn crew marveled at the lesson in humility and strength. Captain Darren spent the next several weeks visiting human ruins, studying old maps, and recording what remained. Every discovery was shared with the Zarn. They now understood that humans had once been explorers and teachers, builders and protectors. "Captain," Talon said one day, "your ship is teaching us more than we imagined. We came here to study machines, but we are learning about humanity itself." Darren nodded. "That is the true gift of the Valor's Edge. Machines can teach knowledge, but humans can teach values. Even long after we are gone, what we leave behind can inspire." At the end of their mission, Darren addressed the Zarn crew. "You have seen the heart of humanity through this ship and through me. Take this knowledge with you. Share it and remember that power alone is nothing. Respect, care, and courage define a species." Raylan bowed his head. "We will remember, Captain. We will tell our people of what we have seen. Humanity is no longer here, but your message will endure." Darren turned to the ship's AI. "Valor, continue to patrol this sector. Protect the ruins, preserve the knowledge, and wait for the day when humans may return." "You are the Guardian now." "Confirmed, Captain. Awaiting future human command," the AI replied. The Zarn departed, leaving Valor's Edge alone in the quiet of space. The ship's lights glowed gently, scanning, observing, and protecting. Captain Darren remained on the bridge, looking out at the stars. He felt hope, not only for humanity but for all life that might learn from it. He knew that one day humans might return to the galaxy. Until then, the Valor's Edge would watch, remember, and endure. And so the last human warship, once thought lost and dead, sailed silently through the stars. A symbol of courage, care, and the enduring spirit of humanity. The Zarn would never forget what they had seen. The galaxy now knew that humans, though absent, had left a legacy that could not be ignored. Captain Darren closed his eyes for a moment. He was tired but fulfilled. Humanity had left a mark, and through valor it would continue to shine across the stars for generations to come. The warship glowed softly under distant suns. Its systems hummed alive and vigilant. The edge of respect had been established, and humanity, through its creation, would endure.